Ladies and gentlemen, your brain is the most powerful machine on this planet, yet most people run it on outdated programming that keeps them trapped in the same cycle of fear, doubt, and limitation. Imagine if you could flip the switch, break free from the old wiring, and design a mind that automatically pushes you towards success, confidence, and unstoppable purpose. This isn't fantasy, it's science. And today, you're going to discover how to rewire your brain so that nothing, no obstacle, no setback, no fear can ever hold you back again. And here's a 1,000-word motivational speech on Rewire Your Brain. Written in the style of Tony Robbins, powerful, high energy, and deeply transformational, without any mention of his name, without headings, and without an ending statement. And your brain is the command center of your life. Every choice you make, every action you take, every belief you hold is rooted in the way your brain is wired. The patterns you repeat day after day are not accidents. They are the result of years of conditioning, habits, and emotions that you've reinforced again and again. If you want a different life, you must rewire the very system that shapes your reality. And here's the truth, you have the power to do it. And think about it, from the moment you wake up in the morning, your brain runs through a series of programs. Most of the time, you don't even notice them. You grab your phone, scroll through your notifications, you take the same route to work, you interact with people in the same ways, and you respond to challenges the same way you always have. That's not destiny. That's wiring. And the wiring is changeable. You don't have to live with the limitations of yesterday. You don't have to be held hostage by the old story. You can take control of your brain, of your emotions, of your patterns, and create a life that feels alive, powerful, and unstoppable. And the key is understanding that your brain is not fixed. It's adaptable. Neuroscience has proven it. Your brain is plastic. It changes every time you create a new thought, a new action, or a new habit. But here's the catch. If you don't consciously direct that process, your brain will keep wiring itself based on your fears, your doubts, your environment, and your past experiences. That's why so many people live the same year over and over again, calling it a life. To break free, you must become the architect of your own mind. And so let me ask you this. What thoughts have you been entertaining? What stories have you been telling yourself? Because every time you think the same negative thought, every time you replay the same painful memory, every time you say, I can't or I'm not enough, you are strengthening those neural pathways. You are reinforcing the prison you're trying to escape. The more you focus on fear, the more your brain wires itself for fear. The more you focus on gratitude, the more your brain wires itself for joy. Whatever you fire, you wire. And that means you can create new patterns that serve you instead of destroy you. And the process begins with awareness. You cannot change what you're not aware of. Pay attention to your emotional states, because your emotions are the language of your brain's wiring. If you constantly feel stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, that's your brain running on old circuits. If you feel energized, grateful, and excited, that's new wiring taking hold. Your emotions are feedback. They are signals telling you what's going on inside. But awareness is not enough. You have to interrupt the pattern. When your brain fires the same limiting belief, I'm not smart enough, I'm not strong enough, I'll never succeed, you must break that circuit. Stand up, change your physiology, breathe differently, speak with energy. Disrupt the pattern so your brain can't stay on autopilot. Then immediately replace it with a new, empowering thought and action. That's how you rewire. You don't just eliminate an old circuit, you create a stronger one in its place. And your brain learns through repetition and intensity. That's why affirmations alone don't work for most people. You can't just whisper a positive phrase and expect transformation. You must embody it. You must attach emotion, energy, and absolute certainty to the new wiring. When you combine a powerful thought with a powerful emotional state, your brain rewires faster. That's why moments of passion, breakthrough, and even pain often lead to massive change. They carry an intensity that sears new patterns into your nervous system. And ask yourself, what identity do you want to build? Because your identity is just a set of reinforced patterns. If you say, I'm shy, you've wired your brain to support that. If you say, I'm powerful, and you back it up with repeated action, your brain will support that instead. Identity is not fixed, it's sculpted. And you can sculpt a new one right now by choosing the patterns you're willing to reinforce. And let me give you an example. Imagine someone who has always said, I'm terrible at speaking in front of people. That belief has been wired in through years of avoidance, fear, and negative self-talk. But if that person begins practicing putting themselves in situations to speak, flooding their mind with empowering language, visualizing success, and celebrating small wins, Over time, the old wiring fades and the new wiring takes over. What was once terrifying becomes natural. That's the power of rewiring. And then here's the secret. Your brain doesn't care if a thought is true or false. It only cares if it's repeated. If you keep saying, I'm confident, I'm relentless, I'm a creator, I'm unstoppable, with enough consistency and emotion, your brain accepts it as reality. Your nervous system adapts. You begin to act in alignment with that belief. Suddenly opportunities show up, people respond differently, and your life begins to shift. That's not magic, that's wiring. But you must commit. Rewiring your brain isn't a one-time event. It's a lifelong practice. Just as you would train your body to become stronger, you must train your brain every single day. Feed it with powerful thoughts, inspiring content, and empowering people. Starve it of negativity, gossip, and doubt. Create rituals that prime your nervous system for greatness. Meditate, visualize, journal, move your body, declare your intentions, and live them with intensity. Every day is a chance to carve deeper grooves of power into your mind. And when challenges come, and they will, you use them as opportunities to reinforce your new wiring. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You ask, how is this happening for me? What can I learn? How can I grow? Every problem becomes fuel. Every obstacle becomes training. Every setback becomes a setup for a stronger identity. Your brain doesn't grow when it's comfortable. It grows when it's challenged. And the real question is, what kind of life do you want to wire yourself into? Do you want a life of fear, hesitation, and regret? Or do you want a life of courage, passion, and fulfillment? Your brain is listening. Every word you speak, every thought you entertain, every action you take is casting a vote for the person you are becoming. Stop casting votes for a version of yourself that no longer serves you. Start voting every day for the unstoppable force you were meant to be. And your brain is your most powerful weapon, but only if you learn how to direct it. Don't let your past experiences decide your future. Don't let the opinions of others control your identity. Don't let fear hold the steering wheel of your life. Grab control, condition your mind, and wire yourself for the destiny. Why? How deserve. And got it, y'all. Here's a direct continuation of the poem. Soon's rewire your brain dog speech, adding another 1,000 words from exactly where the first part ended. Gratitude is not about ignoring challenges. It's about training your brain to focus on possibilities instead of problems. And when your brain is wired for gratitude, you approach life with energy, creativity, and resilience. But let's be real, rewiring your brain is not always easy. Your old wiring will fight back. Your comfort zone will scream at you to stay safe. Your doubts will try to pull you back into familiar patterns. That's why discipline is critical. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're teaching your brain who's in charge. Every time you push through resistance, you're carving a new path in your nervous system. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you're reinforcing the identity of a person who follows through. And this is why rituals are so important. You can't just hope for change. You have to build it into your daily life. What you do consistently matters more than what you do occasionally. Wake up and prime your mind for power. Move your body to create energy. Speak words that reinforce your identity. Visualize your outcomes. Journal your thoughts. These rituals may seem small, but they are the chisels that sculpt your brain into the masterpiece it was meant to be. And when you fall short, and you will, you don't use it as evidence that you failed. You use it as fuel. You learn from it. You reframe it. You get back up with even more intensity. Failure is not the end of a wiring process. It's part of it. Think of it like building muscle. When you lift weights, the muscle fibers tear. That tearing isn't failure. It's growth. It's what allows the muscle to come back stronger. The same is true for your brain. When you struggle, when you feel resistance, when you hit setbacks, you are actually creating the conditions for stronger wiring. And you've got to start asking yourself more powerful questions. Your brain is always answering the questions you give it. If you ask, why am I always failing? Why does nothing work out for me? Your brain will give you answers that reinforce weakness. But if you ask, how can I make this work? What can I learn? How can I turn this around? Your brain will search for answers that create solutions. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you consistently ask. Ask better questions, get better wiring. And then let's not ignore the role of your physiology. Your body and brain are not separate. They are a unified system. The way you move, breathe, and use your body directly affects your mental wiring. When you slump, breathe shallow, and move sluggishly, your brain wires itself for lethargy and doubt. But when you stand tall, breathe deeply, move with power, your brain wires itself for confidence and certainty. You can literally rewire your emotional state in minutes by changing your physiology. Don't underestimate it. It's one of the fastest ways to condition your mind. And the most successful people in the world are not those who never face fear or doubt. They are those who have rewired their brain to act in spite of fear, to move forward in spite of doubt. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move anyway. And every time you move with courage, you reinforce the wiring of a courageous identity. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes. And so I challenge you, start paying attention to the patterns you've been repeating unconsciously. Start noticing the thoughts you keep firing, the emotions you keep rehearsing, the identity you keep reinforcing. Then decide which ones you want to keep and which ones you're ready to replace. Break the old wiring, replace it with something stronger, and repeat it until it becomes who you are. And because the moment you take ownership of your brain, the moment you realize that your thoughts are not fixed, your emotions are not fixed, your identity is not fixed, you unlock the greatest power you will ever know, the power to design your own life. And here's the third 1,000-word expansion of your motivational speech. Rewire your brain, continuing seamlessly from the end of the second part, keeping the same fire, rhythm, and transformational tone without headings, without his name, and without any ending statements. And when you realize you can design your own life, you stop waiting for circumstances to change, and you start becoming the change. You stop hoping that something out there will shift, and you begin shifting what's in here. Because life doesn't respond to hope alone. It responds to alignment, to energy, to the identity you embody every single day. When you wire your brain to operate from strength, clarity, and purpose, you attract opportunities that once seemed out of reach. You begin to magnetize experiences that match your new state of being. And the reason so many people feel stuck is because they're living as slaves to their past wiring. They wake up every morning rehearsing the same old thoughts, feeling the same old emotions, taking the same old actions, and then they wonder why nothing changes. Change doesn't start outside of you. It doesn't start when someone rescues you. It doesn't start when the conditions become perfect. It starts the moment you decide to think differently, to condition your mind differently, to demand more of yourself than the old patterns have allowed. And think of your brain like a garden. Every thought you repeat is a seed. Every belief you nurture is a plant. Every habit you reinforce is watering that plant. If you keep planting weeds, don't be surprised when your garden is full of them. But the moment you start planting powerful seeds, thoughts of possibility, courage, discipline, and love, you begin to grow a garden that inspires you instead of suffocates you. And just like a real garden, it doesn't transform overnight. You have to keep planting, keep watering, keep pulling out the weeds of doubt and fear. But with enough consistency, the landscape of your mind becomes a place of strength and abundance. And then here's what most people forget. Your brain doesn't care whether the seed is good or bad, whether the thought is empowering or destructive. It will grow whatever you feed it. That means you have to become ruthless about what you allow to take root. Every time you say, I can't, you're watering a weed. Every time you replay a failure, you're watering a weed. Every time you choose procrastination over action, you're watering a weed. But every time you say, I can, every time you celebrate progress, every time you take bold action, even when it's uncomfortable, you're planting the seeds of transformation. And the difference between those who live in mediocrity and those who live in mastery is not talent, not luck, not some mysterious force. It's wiring. The masters have trained their minds to respond differently to the same circumstances. Where one person sees failure and stops, another sees a lesson and grows. Where one person sees rejection and crumbles, another sees redirection and keeps moving. Where one person sees fear and hides, another sees an opportunity to build courage. That difference is not destiny, it's conditioning. And then conditioning doesn't happen by accident. It happens because you decide every day to immerse yourself in environments, thoughts, and actions that strengthen the person you want to become. You can't just dabble in rewiring your brain. You must live in it. You must surround yourself with people who challenge you, feed your mind with knowledge that elevates you, and take actions that reinforce your new identity. Immersion is the key. If you spend 90% of your time surrounded by negativity, distraction, and fear, don't expect your brain to wire itself for greatness. You have to dominate your environment before it dominates you. And then when the resistance shows up, and it will, you've got to embrace it. Resistance is the sign that you're stepping out of your old wiring. It's proof that you're stretching into new territory. Too many people interpret resistance as a signal to stop. They think, this feels uncomfortable, so it must not be for me. But the discomfort is not a stop sign. It's a green light. It's your brain letting go of the old wiring and struggling to create the new. And if you keep going through that discomfort, the new becomes natural. And there's another level to this. Rewiring your brain is not just about personal achievement. It's about impact. When you change your wiring, you don't just change your life, you change the lives of those around you. Your energy affects your family, your friends, your coworkers, your community. When you wire yourself for courage, you give others permission to be courageous. When you wire yourself for joy, you create ripples of joy in others. When you wire yourself for resilience, you become an anchor for those who are struggling. Your transformation is not just for you. It's a gift you give to everyone whose life you touch. And so you have to ask yourself, what legacy do I want to wire into my life? Do I want to leave behind a pattern of fear, doubt, and regret? Or do I want to leave behind a pattern of strength, vision, and unstoppable action? Every day you live is another chance to reinforce that legacy. Every decision, every thought, every emotion is another vote for the story your life will tell. And don't tell yourself you don't have time. You do have time. You just have to claim it. You don't need hours every day to rewire your brain. You need intention. You need intensity. Even 10 minutes of powerful visualization, gratitude, or movement can start to shift your state. Even one decision to act with courage instead of fear can begin to carve a new pathway. The key is not how much you do in one day. It's what you choose to do consistently over time. And every great transformation begins with a single decision. Decide to become aware of your patterns. Decide to interrupt them when they don't serve you. Decide to replace them with thoughts, emotions, and actions that align with the life you want. Decide to repeat it until it becomes who you are. That's how rewiring happens. Decision, action, repetition, reinforcement. And the beauty of it is that you don't need anyone's permission. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You can start right now. And imagine if today you began acting as if your dream identity was already yours. Imagine if today you spoke, moved, and thought as the confident, unstoppable, empowered version of yourself. Your brain would have no choice but to begin wiring itself to match. And the more you do it, the stronger the wiring becomes until one day you wake up and realize you are no longer pretending. You have become the person you envisioned. And this is the essence of rewiring your brain. You practice the future until it becomes the present. You live the identity before you have all the results. You embody the strength before you see all the victories. And because your brain doesn't distinguish between imagination and reality when emotion is involved, it begins creating that reality for you. That's the power you hold. And so stop underestimating what you are capable of. Stop telling yourself the old story of limitation. Stop wiring your brain for average when you were built for greatness. You have the ability to think new thoughts, to create new emotions, to build new habits, to design a new identity. You have the ability to rewire your brain for courage, passion, discipline, and love. And the moment you choose it, the process begins. And here's the fourth 1,000-word expansion of your motivational speech. Rewire your brain. Continuing seamlessly from the end of the third part, keeping the same powerful motivational rhythm without headings, without his name, and without any ending statements. And you have to understand something. The life you desire is not waiting for you in the future. It's waiting for you in your wiring. Your results don't change until your patterns change, and your patterns don't change until your brain changes. That means if you want more abundance, more love, more strength, more peace, you don't wait for those things to arrive. You wire yourself to create them. You wire yourself for abundance by practicing gratitude, by focusing on possibility, by taking bold action in the face of scarcity. You wire yourself for love by choosing connection, by practicing empathy, by giving more than you take. You wire yourself for peace by mastering your state, by learning to control your focus, by refusing to let the noise of the world control the calm within you. And most people live like victims of their wiring. They say, this is just who I am. I've always been anxious. I've always been lazy. I've always been unlucky. That's not who you are. That's who you've been conditioned to be. Your identity is not fixed. It's programmable. And the moment you recognize that, you take back the pen that writes your life story. You stop living as a character someone else created, and you start becoming the author. But authorship requires responsibility. You can't blame your old wiring and expect change. You can't cling to your past and expect transformation. You must own every thought, every belief, every action, because ownership is the only place power lives. The moment you say, this is my mind, my story, my wiring, and I decide how it works, you begin to access levels of strength you didn't know you had. And let me tell you, rewiring your brain is not about becoming someone you're not. It's about uncovering who you've always been beneath the fear, beneath the doubt, beneath the conditioning. It's about stripping away the lies and limitations until all that's left is your true power. You weren't born with fear. You weren't born with doubt. You weren't born with procrastination. Those were patterns you absorbed along the way. And if you learned them, you can unlearn them. If you wired them, you can rewire them. But don't confuse rewiring with wishful thinking. This is not about sitting back and hoping life will change. This is about taking radical, consistent action until the new wiring becomes stronger than the old. Every time you act with courage instead of fear, you're reinforcing the new. Every time you keep your word instead of breaking it, you're reinforcing the new. Every time you focus on gratitude instead of scarcity, you're reinforcing the new. Action is the ultimate rewiring tool because action proves to your brain that the new pattern is real. And that's why breakthroughs don't come from thinking alone. You can't just think your way into a new life. You have to move your way into it. You have to embody it. You have to breathe it, speak it, act it. Your body is the gateway to your brain. When you move differently, your brain fires differently. When you use your voice differently, your brain wires differently. When you live differently, your brain adapts. Don't wait for the perfect thought to arrive before you act, and the thoughts will follow. And let's talk about momentum. Momentum is the compound interest of rewiring. At first, the changes may feel small. You replace one thought, you shift one behavior, you overcome one moment of fear. It may not seem like much, but it's wiring. Then you do it again. And again and again. Each repetition strengthens the circuit. Each act of courage lays another layer of foundation until one day, without even realizing it, you've built unstoppable momentum. And momentum is the point where the new wiring takes over, where it no longer feels forced. It feels natural. That's when transformation is permanent. But to reach momentum, you must overcome inertia. Inertia is the old wiring trying to hold you in place. It whispers, stay the same. Don't risk it. Don't change. And in the beginning, inertia feels powerful. But the moment you push through it, the moment you take the first few steps, you discover that inertia was just smoke and mirrors. Action cuts through it like a blade. Consistency dissolves it. Discipline destroys it. And momentum replaces it. And then remember, your brain wires fastest in states of intensity. That's why breakthroughs often come in moments of high emotion, whether joy, pain, or passion. If you want to accelerate your rewiring, you must create intensity. Don't just whisper your new beliefs, shout them, embody them, feel them in every cell of your body. Don't just casually practice your new habits, attack them with energy, with urgency, with absolute commitment. Intensity compresses time. What might take years in a lukewarm state can happen in months, even weeks, when you live with intensity. And another key is to link your wiring to something greater than yourself. When you tie your new identity to a purpose bigger than your own comfort, your brain wires faster. If you rewire for courage because your family needs you strong, you'll reinforce it more powerfully than if it's just about you. If you rewire for discipline because your team is counting on you, you'll lock it in faster. If you rewire for resilience because your mission demands it, I'll never let the old patterns pull you back. Purpose supercharges wiring. And then don't underestimate the power of language. The words you use every day are programming commands for your brain. When you say, I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed, I can't handle this, your brain obeys. When you say, I'm energized, I'm focused, I'm resourceful, your brain obeys that too. Words are not just descriptions, they're instructions. Choose your words like they're sculpting your destiny, because they are. And here's the beauty of this process. You don't have to wait years to feel the change. The moment you interrupt an old pattern and replace it with a new one, you feel the shift instantly. Maybe the circumstances haven't changed yet, but your state has. And when your state changes, everything changes. Your energy changes. Your decisions change. Your relationships change. And those shifts, repeated over time, create a cascade of transformation in your external world. And you've got to fall in love with the process. Because rewiring is not a one-time event. It's a way of life. Every day is another opportunity to condition your brain, to strengthen your patterns, to sculpt your identity, and the more you do it, the more it becomes who you are. You don't think about it, you don't try to remember it, it becomes natural. Just like breathing, just like walking, just like riding a bike, your new wiring becomes automatic. And the question is, what do you want to make automatic? Do you want fear automatic, doubt automatic, excuses automatic, or do you want courage automatic? Focus automatic, gratitude automatic, the choice is yours, and you make it with every thought, every action, every emotion you reinforce. And so stop living as if you're powerless. Stop rehearsing the patterns that keep you small. Stop wiring your brain for a life you don't even want. Decide today that you're going to win. Yourself for greatness, for love, for strength, for everything you know deep down you're capable of. Because once you rewire your brain, there are no limits to what you can create